Soul Survivor. So we are going to talk about the loneliness epidemic and why we feel alone in a crowd. Now, there is a digital illusion that's going on. We have our social media where we can just connect with hundreds of people just at the swipe of a finger. And many of us feel profoundly alone. We have online interactions, even though they are convenient, they lack the depth. A quick like on a post doesn't replace that heartfelt conversation or even a hug. And earlier generations, they depended on the face-to-face interaction, community dances. They would sit down and have a meal together. They would write handwritten letters, and it built deeper bonds. Each interaction carried intention and effort, and this made the relationships feel more substantial. So, if you think about having a traditional family dinner, but it's over a Zoom call, it just doesn't feed your soul. And where did our communities go? There's erosion of shared spaces. In the past, people lived in a tight-knit neighborhood and everybody knew each other. You had churches, community centers, even the front porches were gathering spots for people. And these spaces have dwindled as modern life prioritizes privacy and individualism. There's also urban isolation. Today's cities are very crowded, but they are isolating at the same time. So you might live surrounded by people in an apartment, but never even know what their name is, or even just the people across the hall or across your street. We don't know who our neighbors are. The communal fabric that once united us has frayed. And a century ago, you could borrow a cup of sugar. You go over to your neighbors and just ask for an egg or some sugars. It was kind of commonplace, but today we hesitate to even knock on somebody's door, sometimes out of fear or feeling like we're unwelcome. But there's also a lot of danger in today's society. The me first mentality in modern culture, success is often portrayed as an individual conquest, climbing the career ladder, buying a home, achieving personal goals. While these pursuits are admirable, they can isolate us from others. There's also a generational shift. Our grandparents, they learned on collective efforts, whether it was through family, civic groups, or churches, synagogues, but success wasn't just about personal gain, it was about shared prosperity. So the mantra of today, hustle harder, often gives little room for the meaningful connection that we are so starved for. And we also have time poverty between demanding jobs, long commutes, and the constant ping of notifications. Modern life leaves us little time for relationships. Even when we do have the time, we're often so exhausted to even invest in socializing. And in past generations, they had clearer boundaries between work and personal life. Evenings and weekends were sacred for family and friends, while today it's 24/7. And this grind erodes those lines of boundaries. So, when was the last time you had a long, uninterrupted conversation without glancing at your phone or having a text message come through or a phone call come through? And emotional armor, let's talk about that. Modern culture often glorifies independence, self-sufficiency, making it hard to admit when we're lonely. Many fear that opening up will make them seem like they're weak. Old school dependence. Earlier generations didn't have this luxury of isolation. Families and communities leaned on each other, not just emotionally, but practically for survival. In a world that celebrates strength, vulnerability feels like rebellion. The cost of loneliness on our minds and our bodies, it's not just a fleeting feeling. It's actually a health crisis. Studies show that chronic loneliness is as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's linked to higher rates of depression, anxiety, heart disease, and even premature death. So if you are struggling with loneliness, I'm here in live chats. I do one-on-ones. There's people to talk to, but it doesn't have to be your new way of life. So Why didn't it affect past generations the same way? Their lives weren't easier, but they often had stronger social safety nets, family dinners, neighborhood gatherings, communal rituals to buffer against isolation. So, how do we reclaim connection? To seek a real connection, we have to make that effort. And face-to-face conversations are really where it's at. Prioritize quality over quantity in your relationships. And it's good to find your tribe, whether through hobbies, volunteering, or faith-based groups. Shared purpose will help foster that belonging. So you can volunteer, you can, do Sunday school. There's all different kinds of things. There's sometimes even just a fun job that you can get to know people instead of just working behind a desk. So if you can limit digital distractions using technology wisely, text and social media should supplement, not replace real world relationships. And practice vulnerability. Be brave enough to share your feelings. Authenticity invites deeper connection. So if you guys can share your stories or type amen, so I know that others aren't alone in this loneliness journey. Revisit simplicity. Take the time to slow down. Make time for people, not just tasks. Cook with loved ones. Take walks or just sit and talk. And loneliness can feel like an inevitable part of modern life, but it doesn't have to be. By understanding the roots of this epidemic and making intentional changes, we can rediscover what past generations held dear to their hearts, the power of community, connection, and care. Remember, loneliness isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a call to reconnect with the world around you. And if you would like some guidance on rebuilding connections or even understanding loneliness on a deeper level, let me know. There are different techniques. I have a trip to Costa Rica planned, so we can do a meet and greet if you guys would like to do that. And also live chats where we've formed quite a few real connections with people. Help is on the way, and we'll get through this one day at a time.